Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the Kerbal Space Program. And I'm your boy, King Volcron, and welcome. So, today we are going to continue our conquest of the galaxy. Now, if you remember in our last video, we didn't get very far, but today, we are going to shoot for infinity and beyond. Or at least just orbit. So what we're going to be doing in this video is attempting to orbit Kerbin, aka planet Earth. So we're going to construct our rocket right now. Alright, so let's see. We need our parachute. Now, in order to get into orbit, we're going to have to do some serious propulsion. So we are going to need to add some fuel. And then we can go to our crew, take out Jebediah, and we're going to use Kurdu. Now, if you remember from our last video, our pilot didn't make it because we attempted to do something very stupid. But in this one, we are just going to try and be serious while having some fun. So we're going to call this craft over to craft 1. Alright. So let's launch. Herpa derpa derpa herpa herpa derpa derp. Herp 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 better better derp 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 derp. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. We are just about ready. We'll have an EVA. And we'll have him do a EVA report, and hopefully this time we'll be able to keep our pilot and keep the science so we can progress in the game. But we are ready. So, oh no, I forgot to put the staging in. Oh dear. Oh, we're gonna die, or might not, depending on how this plays out. Oh, yeah, he's gonna die. Okay. So, we're gonna revert that. Alright, let's try this again. Just make some minor tweaks. Make sure we have our Kurdu. Yes, we do. Alright, now let's try and launch this. Alright, orbiter craft 1 ready, staged correctly. Kurdu is in the cockpit. Let's attempt this one more time. Now remember, we have to do these EVA reports and surface samples and things in order to progress in the game. Sorry guys, I'm not feeling too well today, but I wanted to make sure I got this video to you guys. Alright, so now we are ready to launch. Now as you can see here, this is the surface, because right now we aren't quite at orbiting height yet. But you can toggle this to where it gives you the projection for where you want to orbit. But we don't want to actually start turning until about 10,000 meters, because this game actually counts in gravity and drag and things. So in order to get a good orbit, we want to wait till 10,000 meters. If you remember the yaw, the roll, and the pitch, I'm trying to keep this up. Now if you notice, we didn't get nearly as high as we did last time. And that's because we still have only one rocket booster, but we added weight to it. So yes, we did get fairly high, but we still aren't anywhere near orbit. But this time we learned from our mistakes. We're not going to have Kurdoon exit the craft. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward this to where he starts falling. And the way the parachute works is that you deploy it, but it won't actually work until about, if I remember correctly, 600 meters. Just go a little slower. There, yeah. So it activates around 600 meters. You look, we have our parachute. But this time, with the EVA report that we kept, we should be able to have some points for science in order to progress a little bit. But the thing about it is that you can take terrain samples from your own planet Earth. So once we exit, we should be able to have him jump off the spacecraft. Yay! I'm alive, I'm alive. Alright. So we're gonna have him let go. Yay. We have landed on planet Kerbin. So we'll have him take a surface sample. Keep that. I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here, was it? Good observation. We'll keep that. And we can actually plant a flag. You see? We have our little flag that we picked. So we're gonna call this site name Craft Graveyard. I'm alive. Alright. So now we can actually go up and recover the vessel. Sure, we send in like a little crew and they take the vessel out, or they go find it and they take it back. So yay, we now actually have 11 science from the surface sample and the EVA report. So if we collect that and we go to research and development, we now can purchase some basic parts. And then our next step will be to pick one of these. But now, since we have the basic rocketry, we now have the fuel tank, another fuel tank, the mystery goo containment unit, and a stack decoupler. The stack decoupler is actually very essential to future rocketry parts, because what it does is that in the stages of your rocket, see, we have Orbiter Craft 1, how it helps us is that if you remember how it exploded when we landed, you can actually take these off, go to structural. You put a stack decoupler there, it will actually be staged to where the rockets will fire and it'll go and it'll go and it'll go. But then once we run out of fuel, we can actually decouple it where it'll detach it by a small explosion. And then it'll just be the command pod and the parachute, so when it comes down there's no big bang, it'll leave us dying. And we now got the mystery goo containment unit, which is for more experiments. But right now we're gonna focus on trying to propulse ourselves. So now we have the actual T-30 liquid fuel engine. So what we want to do is actually, we want to take this off. We're going to put one of these here. We're going to stage this. So we want to add actually another decoupler. And then we're going to add fuel. We're going to call this Orbiter Craft 2. hang on. I typed this off. There we go. So orbiter craft Mark 2. That's 3. Yeah. But if you remember, we didn't have enough thrust like last time. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take this off. And if we bring this back, you can actually press X. If you notice down here, the symmetry mode, if I put it on the rocket, I now have 2 rockets. And if I press X again, it'll give me 3. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 3 rockets. Along with, if I can move this, another T-30. So now we have enough thrust to supposedly get in orbit. I'm going to move this down a bit. And then, if you remember, these structurals, we're going to put stack decouplers on these, and then we're going to put girders. That way, when we're about to lift off, we can disconnect and throttle. But let's see, we want these 3 rockets. I can pull them down. Alright, we want these 3 rockets to decouple at the same time as they lift off. We're going to try and save some of this fuel. But if we right click these, we have the thruster limit, where we can actually pull back how much we want it to go. So we're actually going to put this at about 68, so that it conserves energy, so it can go longer. That's good enough. Alright, so now that we have these set, we are going to take out Jebediah and we're going to put Kurdoon. He survived a small explosion, so he should be able to survive this. So, just to make sure our staging is correct, because we don't want a mishap like last time. So, the thrusters will go off at the same time as the decouplers from the girders. And then at stage 4, we'll have this T-30 go off. Then that whole section will decouple. Then hopefully we'll be in an orbiting area, to where the T-30 in this area will be able to lift the command module. Yeah, I have some kind of thing on my computer right now that's a bit annoying. I gotta figure out how to take it off. Alright guys, we're gonna launch the Orbiter Mark II. And hopefully we get to orbit around Kerbin. So of course when we get there, we can't exactly do anything because this is a simple rocket. But we should be able to just enjoy the airspace. Alright. So, T-minus. Now! Lift off. Alright. So, the T-30, if you haven't guessed already, is that it now can actually use this throttle. So what we're going to do is we're going to throttle it up a bit. And we are actually going to activate it by pressing space. We'll put our assistance system. I'm not sure what the SAS stands for, but it helps actually to keep the rocket balanced. We're gonna roll this some. Alright, as you can see, the solid fuel is almost out. Ooh, yeah. Alright, so we're gonna throttle this up. As you can see, we're starting to hit 10,000 meters, so we're gonna want to put this over to orbit, and we're going to want to move this over. So I'm actually going to bring this up on the map section, and we're going to bring up our nav ball. But as you can look, we can see our apoapsis. Yeah. And this is our little Orbiter Mark II. As you can see, the apoapsis is increasing, and we want that to increase. So we're gonna pull this throttle back. We're gonna make sure it's still going. We don't want a dead rocket. Alright, so yeah, it's still going. And then we're gonna want to set a maneuver. So we left click, and we're going to want to pull. We're going to want to, hang on. Actually, can we get rid of that maneuver? Yeah, delete that maneuver. We're going to add a maneuver up here. where we're going to enlarge in the apoapsis. Then we're going to move it over. We just want this to increase. Alright, so we're going to want to adjust to this blue marker. And shift up. Oh, can't turn it very well. I'm guessing our throttle did. Yeah, it did. So we're going to disconnect that. We're going to throttle down some. And we're going to burn. And what the burning does is that it actually helps us to correct to where we can get to the proper orbit. So we're going to burn and burn and burn and burn. And then we're going to want to cut it off soon. Oh dear. Yeah, our fuel ran out. So we had a good try. But we are actually pretty decent height up. We are pretty high up. Alright, so let's see if we can get... Look, Purdy's so happy. Alright, so let's see if we can get a proper EVA out of him. We're going to EVA report. You're starting to feel you should really get back into the ship. And that's probably a good idea. See, we're actually moving pretty fast. But right now we're actually a decent height up. But the idea of how you want to make an orbit in this game, just delete that maneuver. But the idea to make it is where you are in a very, very slow descent. Well, it's a very hard concept to explain, but what happens is where supposedly you are descending due to the gravity, but you're at a certain height to where you're being pulled out at the same time, to where you don't move. But we haven't been able to accomplish that yet, but we will in the future. So we're actually going to decouple to where now it's just a command module. And we're going to correct for orbit. Now, of course, right now in this stage of the game, correcting for orbit doesn't do very much. But we're actually going to speed up. But one thing about speeding up, though, is that once you get to a certain area in the atmosphere, is that if you speed up too much, you can actually damage your parachute or damage some of your spacecraft if it's more intricate and has better parts. So we're going to wait till we get down to about 5,000 meters. See, look, it even has the iconic heating up. So we're going to speed and speed and speed. Wait for it. Alright, so now we're going to slow this down. So I've actually never been in this area before. So we're going to wait. We're going to speed this up some more. And now we're going to deploy the parachute. Like I say, right now in this stage, if you were to speed up, you have a high chance of breaking your parachute. But we're going to do it anyway. So I'm going to just keep it as simple. Actually, I'm going to make it go one more. But they do warn you sometimes that it could possibly break your parachute because of the rocking and forth that it causes. But I've only had that happen to me once, so I'm not that concerned. And we are touchdown. Yay. Alright, so we're going to have an EVA. Take a surface sample. Keep that. EVA report. I don't think a spacesuit was entirely necessary to get here, was it? Same observation, but we're going to keep that data. Alright. So we're going to grab on. We're going to get back in. Or not. There we go. We're gonna get back in and we're gonna recover this vessel. Alright guys, so we weren't able to get into orbit, but we were able to get a decent ways up with some new rocket parts. We got 28 science now in total. Nice. But our next mission will be to get into orbit and possibly the moon. But I will see you guys next time. I will see you in the future.